Welcome to the first episode of Tickets to Travel. I am your host, Mario Bedouin. I know, another friend of yours with a podcast. When will the madness end? No one has time to listen to a podcast of some guy that they are just a mere acquaintance of. Well, I'll do my best to provide interesting content around the business of travel experiences. This is designed to be very bite-sized pieces of information that will educate and hopefully enlighten and help others who are interested in the business of travel experiences. I recently started my journey into becoming an advisor and consultant for companies in this niche space. This could include companies in online travel, ticketing, travel and ticketing distribution, live event operations, hospitality management, or even just traditional travel agencies who are focused on bringing unique experiential content to their clients. The challenge I had was finding any good information on any of these businesses that would educate another business person like myself, or maybe someone who was interested in working in these related fields of travel and entertainment. Or maybe it was someone who was looking to change careers and have no idea of how some of these businesses function within these industries. To boot, a lot of these companies, or most startups in general, have very odd, nondescript names. So I thought there would be a tremendous value in talking to these founders and stakeholders about their origin stories and what they do while wrapping it into a more personal theme about travel experiences and, what they had been on or worked on or what they were trying to do with that particular business. I couldn't find that type of content, so I decided to create it really for myself and to help people in my network who are interested in this niche and to, of course, educate and bring awareness to these professionals and entrepreneurs who want to make an impact in the business of their passions. Being in various facets of the online travel and ticketing industries, I always felt that selling a hotel room night was very similar to selling tickets. It was the technology for each industry that hadn't really caught up to each other to make it a complementary product. And while there was a big shift in buying theme park, attraction, activity, and tour tickets in travel to add to your air or hotel booking, you cannot buy a professional sports or live entertainment concert ticket on a major online travel agency site. And unless you're working with a VIP concierge, the booking process for a pro sports or concert festival ticket for a travel agent is really, really cumbersome and lower commission to where there's not a lot of value for the agents to book it at all. Now, if you're from the hotel and travel side of the business, it is undeniable that the on sale for a live event ticket affects everything around that event: airfare, hotel room rates, restaurant availability, etc. There couldn't be more of a business case made than what happened in 2023. I'm not a Swiftie personally, but I definitely respect the talent and not just the musical talent, but the business acumen it took to plan and execute the biggest economic impact from a single solo artist, I think, to date. Some publications have called this Swift economics or Swift economy, a term coined by a reporter named Augusta Sareva, perfectly captures the significant economic impact Taylor Swift has had with her Eras tour. After launching the tour in March 2023, Swift is now touring Europe and continuing to boost economies across the globe. I know that this is not big news, but let's recap for some of the facts on the Taylor Swift Eras tour just for fun, since we're all in this business. The Chicago Sun-Times reported that after Swift's 3 concerts in Chicago in June 2023, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and top tourism officials announced that Illinois had broken its hotel revenue record, thanks in part to Swift's visit. Before Swift's 6 concerts in Los Angeles, the California Center for Jobs and Economy estimated the tour would contribute $320 million to the Los Angeles County GDP. Although the Eras tour had no scheduled concerts in New Zealand, Air New Zealand added over 2,000 seats, including new flights to accommodate the Swift surge, in parentheses, in demand following Swift's announcement that she would be headed towards Australia. Polestar, the live music business publication that tracks concert revenues, had already hailed it as the first billion-dollar tour for its U.S. leg, running intermittently from March to August last year, where she sold 4.3 million tickets with an average price of $238. Although I believe that secondary market tickets average was trading way above that, probably in the $1,500 range. Each show, typically to audience of 72,000 people, grossed around $17 million per show. Wow. Then add in $200 million for merchandise, and it's all history there, right? So Time projected in August 2023 that Swift's tour could generate close to $5 billion in consumer spending in the U.S. It mapped out the scale, suggesting that typically every $100 spent on live shows means $300 in ancillary local spending, notably travel, food, and hotels. For Swift's tour, that ancillary spend per fan ballooned to $1,300 to $1,500 per fan. So a couple more bullet points here. 290 million pounds estimated boost to Singapore's economy for 6 shows, Taylor Swift. 5 billion estimated consumer spending generated on the Eras tour. 17 million gross for each show in the US. 4.3 million tickets sold in total in the US, and 200 million in merchandise. Again, insanity. Although these are tremendous numbers and really sell the impact of the biggest solo artists in history to this point, I would argue that the event travel impact can be felt at other levels. A music festival, the NCAA men's and women's tournament, basketball tournament, the Super Bowl, F1, even smaller, a local food festival, a smaller or 90s touring band could have an impact on hotel room rates and other travel pieces. So if that hypothesis is correct, why can't you buy a pro sports ticket or a concert ticket on any major online travel agency? Has the technology not caught up to the obvious travel demand of these events? In Tickets to Travel, we'll explore this question by talking to companies, personalities, and professionals who are deeply ingrained in solving this challenge. Those people work in online travel, the music industry, professional sports, live events, venues, hotels, ticketing, and travel technology, anyone who can affect the overall travel experience. The ticket plus the hotel equals the experience. So with all that said, and the big numbers behind it, why am I the guy to bring you this type of content? Well, that's a bit of a story. Where should we start? Maybe we start when I first left college. I think, like most people, I had no idea what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I was armed with a communications degree, and I just wanted to have a good time, to be honest. Just continue what I was doing in college for the most part. After a number of what I would call odd jobs, I narrowed down my search to my interests in entertainment. I was a huge fan of music, and live music in particular, as well as TV and film. In terms of travel, I grew up as an Air Force brat. So our idea of travel while growing up was my dad would get orders, and then we would move to that place for a few years. We didn't have vacations or local adventures. It made me want to find a reason to travel. And I couldn't help but think about the compromise was to work in travel or entertainment at the time. In the year 2000, I moved to Las Vegas after 2 good friends of mine from college had headed there. Since I had never really been to Las Vegas at the time, I visited twice and then moved, crashing on friends' couches. But since I had worked at a hotel previously, I thought, well, there's always that. I mean, Las Vegas is the mecca for hotels and hospitality. Since the internet was so young at the time, because we're talking probably 1998, 1999, and into the 2000s, it was still pretty early. The idea of an online travel agency wasn't mainstream yet. I was just lucky my roommate at the time worked for a company called Las Vegas Reservation Systems, which had just changed its name to Travelscape.com. One day, he walked in the door and said, "Hey, they are hiring. They're looking for someone called a market manager." He said they would need someone with sales experience, check. And if you worked at a hotel, that was a plus, check. Once I convinced my roommate to walk my resume into the director's office, I left several voicemails. until they finally asked me to come in and stop calling, basically. But I went through a few interviews, and while not completely qualified, this leadership group in Las Vegas gave me my big break. Full benefits and $32,000 a year. I had my first real quote unquote job. I was a market manager for Florida, based out of Las Vegas, which is odd because I'd never really been to Florida before. Also, by the way, a week after I started at Travelscape, this new travel startup called Expedia acquired it for its direct hotel net rate contracts, contacts, and of course, their technology. As mentioned, I'd never been to Florida at that point, but I did excel in the actual job, mainly because I didn't know what I was doing. I just did what I was told. And if that was, hey, Mario, go talk to the Lowe's Miami Beach into a $99 rate, when it was usually about $350 a night, I did it with a smile, along with introducing several hotels to the idea of online travel. I was literally driving up and down Highway 95, stopping into major resorts and sitting in the lobby waiting for the general manager. I would tell him, I'm going to put your hotel on the internet and we will make millions of dollars. Most of the time I got eye rolls or was told to leave. But luckily it turned out to be right for the most part, and my career flourished. I was even invited to leave Las Vegas and open the Florida and Caribbean office in Fort Lauderdale. By day, I was loading contracts, and by night, I was on South Beach with my new friends at the hotels. I still didn't completely understand why they were so nice to me, though. That's how naive I was, because I had a comp suite on South Beach almost every weekend, free dinners, free drinks, free entry into nightclubs. It was a great life. Then I would drive home in my 1994 Toyota Corolla, and then reality would set in. But in those early days, I started to really understand the principles of revenue management, contract negotiation, and the power of the internet when it came to distributing travel. I then had an opportunity to move to New York City to manage the hotel market when a spot opened up on that team. I jumped at the opportunity as if I could have the great life I had in South Beach, then why not New York City? I had only been there twice as well before, and I decided to move. I was at Expedia during a time it was still considered a startup, but over my time there, I endured the acquisition from USA Networks, which then became IAC. They had also bought other big competitor like Hotels.com and decided to merge us, which that had its own interesting stories and dramas associated to it. There were a ton of stories in those early years online. Of online travel. And, we'll find some guests and some really fun ways to discuss what that looked like 20 years ago. I had another opportunity that took me out of Expedia to Six Flags Corporate. At that time, I was a bit burned out from working with hotels, and those early days of online travel were rigorous. The tech wasn't as amazing as it is now, and a lot of those processes that teams manage now didn't exist. And the success of your market really depended on how much time you put into the relationships, the contracting, and the management and manipulation of rates. All of this was before connectivity, and it was hard work. I think at this point, there's maybe two of us, maybe three of us who were managing the entire state of Florida. Now, Expedia and other online travel companies probably have 20 to 30 people doing that job. So put that into perspective. At Six Flags, I worked for hotel revenue management guru from Disney. He knew there was an opportunity to create B2B distribution for single-day tickets for all of the Six Flags parks. I think there were 19 at that point. So 15 years ago, if you bought a Six Flags ticket, not directly on sixflags.com, chances are it was one of my B2B deals with employee benefit networks, banks, OTAs, and major publishers. Even offline, Walmart, Costco, or what they call retail distribution, were under my realm as well. But also with both the offline and the online piece, gave me a full understanding of how ticketing distribution works. Although Six Flags taught me a lot, and I met some tremendous professionals that I had a lasting impact on how I worked, communicated, and networked, there was a lot of change. And I saw the writing on the wall and looked for a not so corporate solution or situation. I long to be back in the startup culture, work hard, play hard, and the possible upside of a big payout if you were there early enough. So over the last 10 to 12 years, I became more seasoned and learned more about leadership and the managing of stakeholders through a number of startup roles. I worked with some of my friends from Expedia at Living Social Escapes, which was acquired by Groupon. I got my first VP role while at JetSetter. JetSetter was acquired by TripAdvisor, and then on to Secret Escapes, where in those roles I was closer to the distribution of the supply and deals that my teams contracted. It was those roles that made me think about how distribution may work with tickets. Very similar to how hotel rooms would be distributed in B2B, but the tech was different and the time wasn't right yet. The online travel industry were just making an adjustment with travel experiences like helicopter rides, Segway tours, and other ticketed attractions. And that's where we saw them enter the space of ticketing distribution. Now, this is not the type of tickets I was interested in merging with travel. I'd worked at Six Flags and helped coordinate a hotel plus ticket packaging platform that worked well, but the larger online travel distributors weren't equipped to sell festival, sports, or performing arts tickets. There was a lot of complexity around selling seats for one, but also managing a one-time event like a concert or a championship game versus evergreen inventory of a museum pass was and is a harder concept for them to understand and translate to an end user online. All of these thoughts around merging travel and entertainment ticketing at scale came to a head when I was recruited by a unique startup called Pollen. Pollen, for all intents and purposes, was a dream job. I was running the global travel supply team for a company that was producing destination festivals. This was what I envisioned, a travel experience that had a concert at a beach, at a 4-star property. We did everything from Justin Bieber in Las Vegas to Deadmau5 in Miami to Kygo in Cabo. It was the first time I could legitimately see that the vision of merging travel and entertainment at scale could be done. Finally. Pollen raised $215 million and was valued at $800 million, but we grew too big too fast and it imploded in 2022 based on a lot of reasons, but most of it being attributed to the founders and the C-suite and their lack of communication internally and externally, as well as mismanagement of some of the budgets by that team. I credit Pollen with narrowing my path in travel and entertainment because I saw it work at scale. It was hard work, it was fun, and I met amazing people. As I affectionately say now, I may be one of the only online travel guys who understands how to book Beyonce's tour. I'm being kind of cheeky, of course, because there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's something that I've realized makes my path very unique. We'll go a bit deeper on the story of Pollen in the series with many of the players in both Entertain and Warn, but also allows them to discuss what the experience was like and how it impacted their careers and what are they doing now in the space of travel and entertainment, if anything at all. The most important lesson I learned from Pollen is that in our post-COVID world, the Gen Z traveler has really taken on an experiences first mentality. You could take the Taylor Swift phenomenon last year as an indication of how travel is shifting to an event-driven trip, or the trip itself has to revolve around an experience of some type. I tend to focus on concerts and festivals and major sporting events because those are the once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that you get to travel to. And much like a hotel room, the ticket, the experience, and the room are all considered to be perishable inventory, meaning you only have an opportunity to sell it once. Such is life, and in business, you never get that increment of time back, making it more valuable than anything else. When you do, you secure the ticket first and then decide what hotel, what Airbnb, or whose couch you're going to crash on. Then it's about your impact on the local economy while you stay there to enjoy the show. When you think about it, 20 years ago, Airbnb wasn't even an option for travelers, and now it's a mainstay or staple when planning trips to festivals and events. The shift is here. 20 plus years ago, major OTAs built their sites around the idea that airfare or flights was the milk and eggs, the staples in the grocery store. Meaning, most grocery stores have the milk and eggs at the back of the store, so that on your way there and on your way back, you have to pick up some bread, some cereal, or in the parallel of online travel sites, the hotel, the rental car, the activity. At this time, they are not equipped to manage the ticket first demand of a Taylor Swift or Beyonce tour or a Super Bowl. So join me on Tickets to Travel, where we will explore all things related to travel experiences to answer the question, has the behavior of the leisure traveler switched to you only live once, YOLO, as the kids say, and to be sure you use your time wisely and make the most value out of that travel experience. Thank you. I am Mario Bedwine, and I'll talk to you on the next session of Tickets to Travel.